Good.
Okay, Gina, we're ready.
I see you, man.
Okay. All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is the meeting of the City Council's Administrative Services Committee. We are obviously holding this meeting via Zoom, so we have council members here as well as administrative staff and city council staff who are on Zoom with us. We also have a waiting room full of speakers in our virtual waiting room who would like to speak. So what we are here today is to discuss an ordinance that would amend Chapter 34, which is licenses and taxation, and it's regarding short-term rentals. I'm Gina Gregory. I'm the chair of the committee. Other committee members include Councilman Fred Richardson and Councilwoman Bess Rich. We have other council members here today. Looks like it's only Joel Daves is the only council member with us. Anybody
The only other council member
that I'm just missing? Okay, Joel Daves is the only other council member who is with us today. President Manzi texted me just a few minutes ago and said that he was not able to join us today. As far as administration staff, we have a number of folks here. I don't see Paul, but Paul Wesch said that he was going to be with us. Shayla Biko with Executive Director of Planning. Margaret Pappas looks like is sitting in the corner over there. Flo Kessler, one of our attorneys. Gwen Hall in Revenue. Chiefs Morris and Penn. I see one, there's Paul, okay. And by the way, Chief Penn is our fire marshal. Is there anybody, Chris Arledge, our attorney. Am I missing anybody? There you go. All right. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us this way. I know sometimes Zoom is a little confusing, but this is an easy way for us all to get together and to stay safe and to be able really to hear each other and be able to understand what we're all saying. The council has gone back to meeting virtually, so this is our best way now to hold these committee meetings. And here it is, Friday afternoon. So, thank you everyone for being with us and doing this on a Friday afternoon. So to start off with, I would like to have the city council members who are on the committee, and that's Bess and Fred, if you all would like to make some sort of opening statement, or if you want to pose some questions ahead of time, I'd like for you all to go ahead and do that. And then we'll hear from Councilman Daves as well before we go to our council attorney to ask him to, brief us on what this draft ordinance is, where it came from, that sort of thing. So Fred, why don't you get started?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Let me just say that I'm in a learning mode. I have been blown slap away from emails. I did not know that we had, that we have that many people in our city interested in LARB. So evidently it's big in Mobile. I checked with a lot of other cities that's already doing that. It seems like to me that we are behind the 8th ball. So we're going to have to do something, but I think it's our job to figure out just what that is, and I'm anxious to hear from everybody. And maybe after we get all of that, we have some idea as to what we ought to do.
All right. Sounds great. Bess?
I will echo the same similar sentiments, and this is very much, especially this first meeting, to learn and to listen to industry members. I've also done research and gotten information about other cities and how they have, I guess, regulations in place on their cities. And these are very fine cities, which we are too, but we are unique. And so we'll have to craft something that works for the industry here and for Mobile. And I'm sure our legal counsel will be wiring up as far as legality of what we can and cannot do. And again, I'm glad to see that there's industry members because like Councilman Richardson, I've been hearing a lot from our air, mostly it's the air group, BNBs that have contacted my office. So I certainly am all ears to listen. That's my agenda today. Thanks.
Great. Joel?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I would just echo the comments of both of my colleagues. The more research I've done into this, the more I realize that it's a much more complicated issue than I had originally thought it might be. I'd like to say to all of the people who have an interest in this legislation that we're at the very beginning of the legislative process on this. I expect that we will consider this matter over a number of weeks, and we want to get as much input as we can in order to craft a piece of legislation that everyone can live with. I also believe that there are a number of cities who have already passed some form of legislation such as this. I don't think we're in a position to leave it unregulated. I don't believe we're in a position to leave this industry unregulated. What the confines and parameters of that regulation might be, that's what we're here to talk about. And I hope we can, in the end, come up with a piece of legislation that allows this industry to continue to operate in a way that is safe and fair to everybody concerned. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
All right, great. And I agree with everything that's been said. This truly is just a very much a beginning at looking at some legislation. And just to make sure everybody who's listening in understands, we are not here to shut anybody down, to take anybody's business away. We applaud you for doing this kind of business. We've heard from a lot of folks who are welcoming visitors from all around the country, even around the world. Some who make it possible for folks for families who are in between houses to have a place to live with their families, with their dogs, before they're able to get into a new house. So, there are lots of reasons for people renting or using the Airbnb to rent a home short term in a neighborhood, whether it's downtown or in West Mobile. So again, we really are here as a preliminary to listen, to get input, and see where we go from here. So with that, I'd like to ask Chris Arledge, our attorney, who drafted this first look at this first take, if you will, and just Chris, if you would explain, what this is, what it says, and really kind of where it came about. And I know you've already had some questions from council members that you've shared with us, but you might go into those too, questions on insurance and zoning and some of those things that we'll hit on with others in the administration.
Okay, so I was asked to come up with a Airbnb ordinance. It's really more of a short-term rental ordinance. That's just a brand name for a certain company that does these things. Right. But the ordinance, I looked around at different cities in the state, New Orleans, Pensacola, just trying to get ideas of how to get started with this. And the idea was to get something put together, put it out there, and then it could be considered by everybody and tweaked until we came up with something that was satisfactory to the majority. Arguably, under the city business license code is divided into, there's a chart of different types of businesses, and they're any kind of business you can think of, really, and they're divided into various codes that follow this NAICS code system. And there's currently one which is 721311 for lodging houses, which arguably already covers rentals such as this. When I looked into it, it appears that that particular code number is no longer used by the NAICS and has been basically replaced with another one, which is 721199, which is sort of a catch-all for all other traveler accommodation, including short-term lodging. So the first thing the ordinance does is amend the business license code to make it clear that this type of rental is covered. Then it goes into some definitions, says you got to get a business license and display the business license number on your rental ad. part of the issue with this is that I think the city doesn't have a way to know who's renting and who's not renting. And then the second part of the ordinance is really into safety type measures. There's an insurance section which requires you to have some kind of liability insurance. And further research since I wrote this thing, I'm not really sure that a regular homeowner's insurance policy will cover a short-term rental because it's kind of more of a business than just your house. So that's going to have to be looked into. And then I found out that Airbnb provides some kind of insurance itself, or offers it at least. I don't know if you have to opt into that. And you know, there's people that rent these things out that aren't part of the Airbnb organization. So what the Airbnb insurance wouldn't really cover that. Then there's some safety things, you know, smoke detectors, windows that open and close, a fire extinguisher, and the address being listed on the building, and calls for an inspection to make sure that the location has those items, which in the case of a single family dwelling could be done by a home inspector and just filing a report and giving it to the city or to the person to give to the city. And if it was a multifamily building, the city fire inspector could do it. So those are just generally the ideas we came up with. Some of the cities had very elaborate ordinances. Some had very minimal ordinances. A lot of them didn't have anything. So I tried to do kind of a not onerous version, even though maybe somebody thinks that it may be, and that's certainly worthy of consideration. The other issue, which is not really covered by this ordinance, is the zoning. And this doesn't address zoning whatsoever. Now, in the zoning ordinance, there's a few definitions of things that kind of skirt around the idea of the short-term rental, which is a pretty new concept, relatively speaking. But the definitions don't fit exactly. So when it came down to zoning, I don't know if we could say they're directly regulated or not. There is a kind of a coverall section in the zoning ordinance currently about uses that are not listed, which sort of leaves it up to the discretion of the inspector to determine if that use would be allowed. But the zoning ordinance is currently being redone, and perhaps something could be added about these. So that's the synopsis, really.
Okay. Any questions for Chris? Anybody? Fred?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Chris, are you implying that the city of Pensacola has an Airbnb ordinance? Did you imply that?
New Orleans definitely does. I can't remember whether Pensacola had one or not. I think they did. Sorry?
You think they do?
I thought they did, but I don't have it here in front of me to really remember. I just looked at a bunch of them. I know New Orleans did.
All right. I mentioned that because Pensacola has 50,000 people. We got right at 200,000, and the thought that we should not do anything, I think we can. That's a foregone conclusion. I think we're going to have to do something, and I think all of the speakers who come before us can help shape what we do.
All right. Anybody else? Questions for Chris? All right. Chris, in some cities too, and you may have mentioned this and I just didn't catch it, but some cities too have some specific guidelines. I think for when you have to have, maybe it's a business license, they limit it to like if they're only renting out rooms for like under 30 days or a maximum of so many other days, there's some sort of guideline in that as to whether they the owner or the host has to have a business license. Have you seen any examples of things like that?
I saw an article that New York City had that type of ordinance, but I don't remember seeing the ones from Alabama really addressing that exactly.
Gina, if I could just make a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to interrupt yours, but I got an email from a gentleman today who was concerned that the city council was trying to slip this in unseen and do it kind of surreptitiously. Of course, nothing could be further from the truth. We've followed all of our procedures on this. The thing that a business license would do is allow us to know who these folks are. And so if we had known who you were in this instance, we could have contacted you. But if we don't know who you are, there's no way for us to contact you other than put it out there in our normal procedure. Now, Ms. Rich has just finished her committee having to do with tow companies, and we were able to contact the tow companies because we know who they are. But if you don't get a business license, we don't know who you are, and it's difficult to contact you specifically when we have legislation that might affect your industry.
Yeah, I think right now the only way that we had to go through to see how many short-term rentals there are was to go on the Airbnb website or even VRBO to see if we could figure out how many there are. That was really our only way of doing it. And we know that there are probably owners and hosts out there who, like was said earlier, are not necessarily on these platforms. So there are probably more out there than what we would even know about if we spent our time looking through the online advertising. Anybody else for Chris at this point?
I don't have a question necessarily for Chris, but I do for Paul, because it involves the taxation that this group is already paying to the state. And I wondered how they were able to collect.
Why don't we let Paul?
Yes,
Paul and I
fine.
It yesterday about Airbnbs and the cities, how the city works with Airbnb and collects taxes and that thing. And he's got some more background information I think he can share with us on, what the administration is doing or what the administration knows, just so that we have a better understanding, if you don't mind. So, sure. Okay. All right.
That's fine. The Airbnb agreement with the city of Mobile is really a voluntary one. I agree with Chris that it's very unclear as to whether short-term rentals, think of it as primarily vacation rentals, are included within our ordinance as far as taxation goes. Airbnb has demonstrated an interest in volunteering to collect those short-term rental taxes at our hospitality rate, the 8%, that is charged for hotels, because first of all, they too are unclear as to whether they are subject to the revenue ordinance, and it gives them regularity. They know that an audit would not present a problem for them or for their clients, the owners of those vacation homes. So they are paying, I believe, for about the last 12 months, they have collected and paid over on behalf of their clients about $180,000. We do not have agreements with VRBO or any other representatives, managing agents, or any individual homeowners. If the ordinance were amended to specifically show that it covers short-term rentals, then of course all those people would be mandated to pay 8%. That obviously begs the question as to how do we monitor compliance without some sort of registration, whether that's a business license or not. So from a revenue side, that's really, really where we are.
Paul?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. The tax that the industry, the Airbnb pays, that goes to the state. It's collected through the state, correct? And then they allocate what resources come to the city of Mobile. Is that how that works? Or did you mentioned an agreement the city had? I wasn't familiar with that part.
Yes, the city is paid that amount directly by Airbnb. They also have agreements with some other cities and with the state.
Okay.
Paul, there is a state lodging tax in addition to the city's lodging tax?
There is. The lodgings tax here again is 8%. There's a state lodgings tax of 4%. I believe the county lodgings tax here is 1%.
So the total's about 13% if you're a hotel and you're operating.
That's
right?
correct.
Yeah, it's 14%. It's 2% from the county.
2% from the county.
Oh, okay. That was David Clark. Thanks, David. So the total then would be about 13%.
14.
14%?
Yeah, 8% city, 4% state, 2% county.
For a total of 14. All right. Any other questions for Paul? Paul, and for the council members, since it has come up about collecting the taxes and also some zoning questions, do we want to hear from Gwen Hall about how they are collecting, or any questions that she has or any needs that she has as we go forward in this? Because it's her department that would be getting the money and figuring out, how we collect it and how we find out whether there's anybody out there who is supposed to be paying or not paying. I don't know, Gwen, are you on with us? She may not be.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So we were talking about the city has a contract with Airbnb and we collect from them, but the total lodgings tax that, say, for instance, a hotel pays comes up to about 14%. So for you, how are you working with or collecting taxes from these Airbnb folks? Are we collecting anything from folks who, the host or the owners who are not part of Airbnb?
Now we're collecting from the Airbnb, as Paul stated, because we have a voluntary collection agreement with them, and they pay us directly. They pay it through the state portal, but it comes directly to the city's bank account. And that's the amount that Airbnb collects. And in the agreement, we don't know who those individuals are, because that's part of the agreement. They send it to us as a collective amount. So we get that on a monthly basis. Now, if there's anyone else that is doing any type of Airbnb rental or in short-term rental or through any other group, vacation rental by owners, I think, and then there may be a few others, we have no idea who they are or how to get those particular individuals. There may be some people that are voluntarily paying lodging tax. I know, speaking with some other cities, some people are paying lodging tax just voluntarily, and they're paying it through the state portal, and it goes to the city, but we don't know who they are. So unless we are
necessarily,
them.
Yeah, they're not necessarily paying through Airbnb. They're just doing it. Okay.
Gwen?
So, go ahead, Bess. No, go ahead, Bess.
Is it a 14% that's or is the agreement with the city at 8%?
The agreement with the city is 8% because it's just for the city alone. The state has an agreement with Airbnb separate. And the county may have one, I don't know, but they went to the state to get an agreement, and separately they came to the other jurisdictions. So it's a jurisdiction only agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Gwen, I have a couple of questions for you. What would the business license fee be for one of these? How much is?
As Chris mentioned earlier, we have a code that's in the license code currently that we considered would be the catch code for this type of lodging situation, and it's based on gross receipt. So it's would be a percentage of gross receipt, with the minimum being $120, just like any other license.
Okay, and are the people that operate just plain B&Bs, if they get a business license to operate, then they're paying this fee that we just talked about, right?
If they get a business license to operate, then they would be required to pay taxes as well. So the business license would be separate. Then the taxes would be due monthly based on, the 8%. Now, if they're already set up with the Airbnb, they would pay the taxes to us. They would continue through the Airbnb process, and then Airbnb remits it to us.
Yeah, I was really talking about just the regular B&B, the owner occupied B&B. So my understanding is many of them have obtained business licenses. And so I guess they're paying the taxes, they're collecting and paying the taxes and the business license fees.
Now, are you talking about the bed and breakfasts that may be?
The bed and breakfast, yes.
Yes, they would be paying. They have a business license, and then they also pay a monthly tax.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Gwen, while we're talking about that, I'm sorry, Fred, just one more for Gwen.
Okay.
So, and David Clark is on the line too. He can help with this. Do all bed and breakfasts, the traditional bed and breakfast with the owner occupied, do they always or normally get a business license? Is that what has been happening in the past?
Yes. Yes, if it's an established bed and breakfast, either we've identified them or they voluntarily come in to get a business license, because they are required to go through the zoning process, the fire department process, and everything.
Okay, but I know some B&Bs, some traditional B&Bs do their marketing through, I mean, the Airbnb is just truly just a facility, a marketing tool. So an owner occupied could be paying some of their taxes through Airbnb, but then the rest of it, I guess, would have to go through the city.
Correct.
Okay. Fred?
Okay, so am I to understand that the B&Bs, they're paying some taxes, and the city, are they going through any inspections? Are we requiring them to be inspected, Gwen, to your knowledge?
Somebody else would have to answer that, but yes, in order to get a business license, they're required to have a fire department inspection. They're required to have insurance. They're required to have a zoning clearance if they're
okay. What about the Airbnb? What about the Airbnbs?
You mean the Airbnb?
Yes.
The Airbnb is just that's, what do you call it? It's not anybody that's here. That's just you register with them online to actually advertise for you. So the Airbnb itself does not have a business license.
Okay, so but the facility is in Mobile.
Correct.
Okay, let's just say that, and they are paying some money to the state and to the city. Is that true?
Okay, the facility is in Mobile, but the facility could be your house or my house. And I want to rent out my house for Airbnb. I would contact Airbnb and say, advertise on your website, my house for rental.
Okay.
I would be the one.
I want to know that if I advertise my house through Airbnb, am I in exchange going to pay the city any taxes at all?
You should have a business license.
Well,
okay. So hold it right there. To get the business license, am I also going to have an inspection? this is what I'm getting to, Gwen. If I'm paying the city of Mobile some money and I'm using Airbnb and someone is burned up in my facility, they had no fire extinguisher. You know, see what I'm saying? They didn't go through nothing to make sure everybody was safe. Couldn't they sue us? Couldn't the family sue us?
But I think part of
the
problem,
we suffered and permitted them to do it.
Richardson, part of the
plain view.
Fred.
It's prima facie.
Fred, I asked Chris this question this morning. Let's say that someone's operating an Airbnb advertised place, and they're obviously not getting inspected by the city, and something happens, you know, the place burns down, the renter is killed. I asked, does the city have any liability? And I asked Mr. Arledge that question this morning, and Mr. Arledge gave me this answer. Mr. Arledge.
Chris,
cut it on, Chris.
I don't think we can be sued for not having a law. Now, if we, you know, if something happens and the house burns down or whatever, the city's not the one that caused the fire. They're not really negligent. So whether the inspection got done or not, I mean, you can really always sue anybody for anything. That doesn't mean you're going to win. And I don't think the city's liable if, you know, we didn't have an ordinance and something happened, or if we did have an ordinance and something happened. Now, if the city, some city employee committed some sort of error, then depending on what it was, you know, that is a possibility.
Madam Chairman.
Mr. Richardson?
With the towing company, the accident has already happened before the tow truck got there. The accident has already happened. Yet we're requiring them to have insurance on everything. We just throwing the whole 9 yards at them, and the accident is already over. We're talking about the possibility of an accident, and we are wide awake. We know they're out there. We are not requiring them to protect the people that they're running to. You know, you can't make us do nothing because we, you know, our people are not, I don't know. I think if they went to court, I think that we will be responsible because we're negligent in our responsibility. And I think the reason we are convened today, so we would not go down that road any longer being negligent in this regard.
Yeah. Well,
Gina, I've got another question for Gwen.
Oh, go ahead.
Gwen, you said that the bed and breakfast, owner-occupied bed and breakfast, and they come and they get a business license, and they're going to pay our monthly business license fees. They're going to pay the taxes. They're going to pay the city taxes. And we require them to get inspected, and we require them to have insurance. What kind of insurance do we require them to have? And what are the limits of the liability on that insurance? You know,
I'd have to look that up. I'm not sure of the amount of insurance, but they are required to get all of those prerequisites before they get a business license. And I didn't finish to answer Mr. Richardson's question.
I'm sorry, man.
But I know it, you cut me off. But the thing is that I think that's why we're here now, is because we don't have all of those things that say you're able to get zoning in the neighborhood and all those different types of things to be able to get a license. So therefore, we don't have any Airbnb or short-term rentals in the neighborhoods licensed because they can't get all of those other things. So until we get something in place, we won't be able to license those individuals, although they are doing business.
So Gwen, you're saying we've got to do all these other things first before you can give the Airbnb folks, short-term rentals, a business license, correct?
when they come to us, they should have some prerequisites in order to get the business license.
So,
Yeah, but right now they're not getting
anything, right? They're not getting anything right now, right?
We don't have any of those on the books. The ones that you are referring to, short-term rentals, we have none of those on the books.
Yeah, as far as we know right now, the short-term rentals, they are paying, if they are marketing through Airbnb, they are paying 8% to the city. As far as we know, that's all that is happening for sure right now.
As far as we know, for sure.
All right,
Madam Chairman, I got one more.
Okay.
And Chris, you might want to weigh in, you and Gwen. Is it not true that a person cannot collect money for profit from anyone without a license? We make peddlers out there trying to sell whatever they're peddling. The police arrest them if they don't have a license. I got to charge my battery. The police will arrest them if they don't have a license. If you are collecting money for profit, you can name it Airbnb, ABCDG, FGP. If you're collecting money for profit in the city of Mobile, you got to have a license. Is that right, Chris?
That's what I was saying at the beginning. Arguably, you got to list them as the type of thing you got to put the tax on. And arguably, they are covered, but I don't think anybody knows that. People that are doing renting their houses out. But this is making it clear, changing the wording up a little bit to say, yeah, you know, just so there's no discussion about it. It's clear you do have to have a license, and so the language, clearing up the fuzziness in the language is really what it's doing. And the business license, for the people listening that may not have caught this, is a different tax than the lodging tax, which is the 8%.
But also, to make it clear, and Gwen is still on, in order to get a business license, you have to go through these other hoops first.
That's correct. That's correct. And the same thing, if you're doing business without a license, yes, you can get issued a ticket. But then when you come to get a license, if you don't have those other requirements, we can't give you a license. So that puts them in a catch-22. So we got to have regulations that will allow them to get the business license.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think this is so, I know that short-term rentals have been going on in the city for a while, but there haven't been so many that it's really caught our attention until really now. And I'm not 100% sure that a lot of these people who are hosting in their homes with short-term rentals even thought about needing a business license, because to them, you know, they're just renting their home. It's like, you know, people who rent homes to families all the time, be it, you know, a long term, like for a year or 2 years, whatever, that's another family home to the people who are renting. So I just don't think that they necessarily knew they needed a business license, never even thought about it. You know, we've got Chief Penn on here, and Chief has been talking about, if you get a business license, you have to go through some hoops. And we mentioned the traditional owner-occupied bed and breakfast as an example of, you know, somebody who does short-term rentals. And they get all these different inspections. Can you just give us a little bit more information about what your department would be doing, what you look for in safety in facilities like these?
Most of the time when they open up these businesses, initially when they get the business license, we'll go by and look at it. But the challenge that we would have is that when we look at it, we're just signing off that they passed the inspection at that moment of time. That doesn't mean that as soon as we leave, they go back and do some other things, or the next person that comes in, come back and do a whole lot of different violations and create problems for us. But the only thing that we look at when we pass the inspection, that at that moment of time, they made all the corrections that we needed to go in business at that moment. That's it.
But since this would be a place where people would come in and stay, like a hotel, bed and breakfast. Your visitors are coming in, people are coming in, and they are spending time there. Are there specific things that have to be in place, you know, like smoke detectors, sprinklers? I mean, what is required?
Well, those things like smoke detectors, fire, the smoke detectors, fire extinguishers definitely would be needed. As far as the sprinklers and systems like that, it just all depends on the type of how many people will be using it for, how many exit. There got a few other things that would have to be determined to see if it would be a sprinkler system would be required or not. Just it's on a case by case basis.
Yeah, it's a couple other things to Chief's point. This is David Clark. Basically, carbon monoxide detectors, visible address numbers, no visible electrical hazards. Those are typical lodging kind of protocol standards at minimum.
Okay.
Those are the standard things that we require across the board for all the businesses to open up. And generally, if we go back at any time, we'll address them again. But because this type of facility be in and out all the time, that would be another challenge that we have to take a look at. I'm not sure how all these other cities are addressing those issues, but that's something that we have to.
Well, I know one thing, we've heard from a number of people who have some just have garage apartments, some have a small house out back, and then others have several properties that they're putting on Airbnb to rent out. So I'm thinking I'm somebody who just has a garage apartment. I've just renovated it and I'm renting it out through Airbnb. So I'm looking at also having to get a business license and go through all the hoops to get a business license and the inspection, all of those sorts of things go in. I mean, is it the same for everybody?
Everybody has prerequisites for the business license. It's different for different ones. So if you're a restaurant, yes, you have to have fire department clearance and health department clearance and zoning and all those different things. Now, an attorney's office, they're not going to have all those things. They do have to have a zoning clearance. So it just depends on what type of business you're doing. But you do have to, everybody has to have some prerequisites.
So my garage apartment, I would have to have the same sort of business license, the same sort of inspections that somebody who's renting single family homes.
If that's what's in the law that requires you to have that. So whatever the law requires them to have, they have to have it before they come to us to get a business.
Well, I guess in some respects, I'm just wondering if there are any differences on maybe size or location, anything like that. And Chris, as we look at other cities, that might be something, you know, to look at. Just, are there any differences in requirements based on the size or location, if it's just like a garage apartment versus several single family homes in a neighborhood somewhere?
Well, in listening to the fire marshal, he mentioned that if it was like a lot of people staying, then a sprinkler system would be required. So you could talk about the square footage of the facility and limiting or knowing exactly what the numbers are, and then the different regulations would trigger in. I mean, I think that might possibly work in the language.
Well, just the number of people, how many exit doors, how many people is going to be occupied.
Right, because you have a formula for safety, right? And so using that formula in square footage would, then help us arrive at what the different, criterias could be. Because you don't want to overburden someone with putting in a whole sprinkler system. Now, should their windows all work? Probably, the ones where the guests are staying and not be sealed shut, something like that. The whole idea, the reason we can even look at this is a safety issue. And, we're looking at the safety of the people that are, part of this exposure to working and staying in these locations or visiting. So I think a lot will have to do with what the fire marshal thinks is needed by the square footage of a facility.
I agree with Bess that some differences might be in order, but on the other hand, I don't want to rewrite the fire code.
No, God, no. I want them to tell us what their code already is.
Yeah. Maybe the code is already set up in such a way so that a smaller facility would need less than a larger facility and that kind of thing. I just don't know. We don't know at this point.
I mean, it's set up to where if it's a smaller facility where it's only 1 or 2 people in there, the code wouldn't be as stringent as if you're bringing in a full-fledged, a couple of different type of families, and it's a larger place. So everything will have to be on a case-by-case basis. How many doors, square footage of the house or the building that they're looking at, to what's required and what's needed.
Yeah, and this is nationwide kind of standards, correct, for firefighting and safety?
That's correct.
So yeah, other cities probably have this on their books.
Right. Yeah, Chief, the code we adopted, the code we have is the International Fire Code or something like that, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct. IFC 2012. We're looking to upgrade to 2018, hopefully real soon.
Okay, thank you.
Before we go too much further, Shayla and Margaret are listening in, and we've talked a little bit about zoning or lack thereof for short-term rentals. So Shayla, if you would just explain where short-term rentals fall in our current zoning code and possibly in the upcoming revised zoning or not.
It's the or not. Short-term rentals are not, as we interpret our ordinance, are not identified as a regulated use. So right now, per the ordinance, location requirements and whatnot, short-term rentals are not identified as a use that we regulate.
Okay, but
do you have a recommendation?
Well, bed and breakfast, owner-occupied bed and breakfast is.
Bed and breakfast is. It is allowed in R3, but I believe with a planning approval. Yes. So if it's a R3 district, it's an allowable use, but you must have planning approval first, which means you have to go before the planning commission to request approval for that specific use.
It's prohibited in R1.
Shayla, why would the code apply to a owner-occupied bed and breakfast, but it does not apply to one of these non-owner-occupied short-term rentals?
Well, first of all, y'all have heard me say this time and time again, but our current ordinance is very, very old. So this notion of a short-term rental obviously was not recognized when our code was first developed. But with respect to a B&B, just to kind of put things in perspective, there are location-specific criteria, which I think there was some thinking as to why R3 was an appropriate use, because you've got to consider things like parking, depending on the size of the use and what impact it could have to the surrounding area. With respect to an Airbnb, if it's used appropriately and within the confines of the requirements for it, then it's a single family home. We see it as allowable in a single family district. We have not taken that deep dive with respect to that use within the new ordinance. That would require some additional research on our part, because we would have to look at criteria to determine which zoning designation it would be appropriate for.
Shayla,
potentially have impacts to surrounding neighbors.
Thank you.
Shayla, on a business license for a home business, isn't it 20? They can get a business license for certain, types of business, but it can't take up more than 25% of the overall square footage.
Correct.
So we might be able to look at something like that allows, this industry to flourish in R1, where we know the parking is appropriate and, whatnot. And then the square footage that's devoted to that aspect of their home. And I don't know if 25% is right, but I'm just saying we do that with in-home occupants that want that kind of business license.
You're correct. Yes.
Joel, did you have something? Okay. Anybody else before we invite our speakers?
let them in.
I'd like to say a couple things, if I could.
Oh, okay. Well, Dave,
about it.
to include you in the speakers. So hang on a second. Anything else? Any other questions? Any from the administration? Chris, anybody?
Yes, I have one of the chief. So take a regular bed and breakfast today. If they come in to get a business license, I didn't see any particular bed and breakfast ordinance. You would then revert back to the International Fire Code to determine what you're checking on when you go to that location. Is that correct?
That's correct. Everything that we look at, we revert back to the code and see what's permitted. However, of course, we do have leeway to make some changes if so be it with the ordinances and things like that. No code is going to supersede what the governing body would like to do, but for all practical purposes, we stay with what's written as written in the fire code.
So even if this new ordinance passes and has nothing about what kind of fire extinguisher you gotta have and all that stuff, whatever the International Fire Code says that we've adopted, that addition is still going to require something.
Yeah, that's correct. Right. The ordinance that we generally work with is we adopt the entire code, so it's no really need to go through every detail, letter by letter stating the exact code again. We adopted the ILC 2012 right now as written. However, sometimes it's a good thing for us to just tweak it and just make sure that everybody understands exactly what that code is. Sometimes it's a little questionable in there, some discretion. It can be ambiguous, and the ordinance will allow you to clear that up. But all in all, we adopt the entire the ILC 2012 code, and it is as written.
Thank you.
So I just want to make sure I understand that, Chris and Chief. So if the short-term rentals have to have a business license, in order to get the business license, that means they have to get all these other inspections. So they would fall under the fire marshal's jurisdiction anyway. So does that mean then that we would not have to write in something into our ordinance on the safety side, or because it sounds like it's already covered by the fire marshal? Am I understanding?
The code probably wouldn't say anything about Airbnb specifically. It'll be a little bit more general. What we will probably need to do is take a closer look at it and see what we can do to refine it or tweak it in the ordinance if need be. We just have to take a look at see exactly what the code states as far as these type of rentals. I hadn't had a chance to review it word for word just yet.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Shayla, did any of you all flow?
Hey, I was just going to mention that the draft does require a 2.5 pound ABC fire extinguisher per floor.
Okay. All right.
Anybody else before we go to the speakers?
No, you got David over there.
All right. I know Lisa's going to bring them in. David.
David.
Well, I know David is here, so we're going to hear from him, but Lisa will bring in the other one. So David, why don't you start, and then Lisa will start bringing in the other speakers.
Sure. Well, good day, everybody. It's great to see everybody. And first of all, broadly, I've been watching Airbnb for many years. I've been in the lodging industry for 30 years. I'm a big fan of Airbnb. It's a great lifestyle brand. And it's really good for cities, because if you look at who supports it, your millennials really strongly support it, and they're the fastest growing segment in the industry. They're very brand loyal, and they're loyal to Airbnb. So Airbnb is a great thing for any city to be involved with. It's a lodging brand. I sort of look at it like this: is like lodging is lodging. If you look at Marriott, they have 28 brands, right? Ritz, Renaissance, Autograph, Courtyard, Fairfield Inn, Residence Inn, Town Place Suites, so on and so forth. They're all different brands. They're also held to the same standards and the same accountability in terms of codes, whether it be health department, cleanliness, sanitation, that kind of thing by agencies. I want to go back to some zoning discussions that you have. I've been tracking people like New Orleans on zoning. They have new regulations that increase restrictions on short-term rentals. Austin, Texas, they have non-owner occupied STRs in residential areas that are being phased out. Asheville, North Carolina, they have new regulations that require city council to approve to obtain a permit. And they're outlawing conversions of multifamily units with STRs. So there's a lot of moving parts in here, but Airbnbs are good. It's just a different lodging component. And I think that I've, not speaking on behalf of our lodging association or our hoteliers, but they also think, from the people I've talked with, they think Airbnbs are good. I think that they want, to make sure that everyone in the lodging community is paying their fair share of taxes like everybody else, is to have equity and fairness. Now, if you look at Airbnb's site, 2 years ago, I have some notes where I Googled Airbnb rentals in July 11th of 18, and there were 254 units in Mobile, Alabama. Last night, when I played around with it, there were 192.
Oh, really? So less?
100. Well, I mean, it could be some moving parts, it could be some listing, some kind of discrepancies in the platform. VRBO had 7 in Mobile, Alabama. So one thing about Airbnb's site, if you look through it and retool it and try to go through a reservation, you will drill down and you will see that eventually when you get into the picture mode of Airbnb, it shows that 8% taxes to Mobile, 4% to the state, blah, blah. It has their service fee, cleaning fee, and they itemize all of that out. They also very strictly, Airbnb does, in their wording, they strongly recommend that each user of the platform has Airbnb collect the fee. They very much discourage anyone from doing it themselves. The reason being is fraud. And that's a good thing. So, they really have taken the high road in terms of a platform for accountability of collection and having a great partnership with their users. So, when you look at it from a lodging standpoint, it's a lifestyle brand. It's a lodging community. And I think that I heard someone say that y'all are receiving revenue from actually somebody you don't even know. I almost think that there's a fiduciary duty that you need to find out, number one, who these people are, and number two, have the standards and fairness discussions that you're having today. And I know we have some great Airbnb users on today with us, and you just know that the lodging community very much appreciates, as I do, your partnership, because you're a big deal of attracting tourists and people to our community. So that being said, I just wanted to put some thoughts out there, but Airbnb is a good thing. It's a brand.
All right, great. Thanks, David. Appreciate it. All right, Ms. Lambert, if you will start bringing in our other speakers.
Okay. The first one is Todd Fowler. Todd. Please unmute, Todd. Uh-oh.
I thought I saw Todd.
Yeah.
It's calling Todd. Here.
Hello.
Okay, there.
How are y'all doing? Thank you for having me.
Sure. Thanks for joining.
Yes. All righty. I've never done this before, so you have to, I guess, bear with me. Can I ask y'all questions, or is this just?
Todd, Todd,
yes.
1 minute. You have you'll have 3 minutes once you start. Okay. So
okay.
yeah, you all didn't answer me in the chat room. So you'll have 3 minutes to ask your questions and discuss whatever you need to discuss.
Okay.
All right. Starting
All right.
now.
Okay, sounds good. My main question for y'all is, what about the nature of the short-term rental requires more regulation than just a traditional rental, with 6-month and year leases, especially concerning like safety and all of the things that y'all went through with the fire code and what have you. These houses are very similar to a traditional house, almost no difference.
Todd, we have made no decisions. We're here to listen. We haven't made no decision on any of that. We're here to gather information. We would like to hear what you got to say about it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm okay. I guess I'll just kind of tell you a little bit about myself then. I'm a Mobile native. I've been here my whole life. I have restored 5 historic homes over the last, 5 years. And I love my city. And, you know, we appreciate, I'm sure myself and the other hosts appreciate you guys considering us and being favorable upon us as much as you can. But I've been speaking with a lot of the other hosts. I know we all love our city a lot. We have a lot of pride in the historic areas specifically. I also wanted to know if there were any, it seemed like there may have been an allusion to some grievances with Airbnb, and this is very new to me. If you guys could shed some light on any of that, I'd love to hear it, because, you know, we want our community to thrive. And, you know, that's part of the reason we do what we do, is because, you know, we love the historic districts. That's one of the main things I can say.
Hey, Todd, just a quick question. Do you post your homes through Airbnb?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I
don't think I heard anybody with a grievance about Airbnb. I think what we said was we were really happy that they collect the taxes and are paid to the city. One of the things that was said was that the way they come in, though, we as a city do not know who is paying the taxes, because the short-term rental folks don't have a business license. So we don't know, you know, who is paying them or not. We just get kind of a lump sum from the state portal, basically. But we love having, you know, you all do this. We're happy to have you do it. We're just looking at ways to make it better, make it safer, and you know, add some regulation where it needs to be. But we are very early on looking at this. We've made no decisions one way or the other. We really are looking for your input.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to. I had more questions than input. Sorry, but I'm trying to kind of scrambling now. But,
okay.
So are y'all going to be making a decision on this at the next meeting, or is this going to be a continual thing that will be like discovery, if you will?
No, this was something that came up and was on the agenda because that's really the way we get the discussion going. This is very preliminary. Now, you will see something on the agenda Tuesday only because it was just laid over until then. But what you will see on the agenda will either be tabled, which means it basically goes away, or later 3 or 4 months down the road to enable us to work with the community, to work with hosts like you. Goodness.
All righty.
His time must be up.
You know, and others to draft something that hopefully everybody can live with.
Okay, fantastic.
Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. So, will we have further involvement beyond?
Your time is out, Todd.
Oh, no, I have a question actually for Todd, if I could. Thanks for being here, Todd. And it is early. Okay. I mean, we're just fact finding. The question I have for you is, can you tell me, for the platform, do they have any standards about safety that you have to meet? Or is it strictly people's reviews that keep you in the platform?
We weigh heavily on the reviews. That's probably one of the things that's most important to us all as hosts. But there are certain things that are highly recommended, such as, you know, your smoke detectors and your carbon monoxide detectors, things to that nature. However, let's see. was going to make a point. One of the things that Airbnb does cover is liability insurance, and it is a policy of $1 million. I believe one of the other hosts sent you guys a slideshow that has a lot of this information in it, and I would refer to that because it has a lot more detail than I have time to discuss.
I understand.
Ins and outs.
Yeah. I was just curious. So you're saying that you already have these things in place, like the smoke detectors and.
Yes, ma'am, I do. Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. Well, good. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think that's what.
Todd.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Todd.
Thank you.
We'll see you again, Todd.
All righty.
All right. Next one, Madam.
The next person is Sharon Dixon. Hi, Sharon.
Can they give their addresses, please?
Okay.
That'd be good for the record.
Where did Sharon go? Oh, there's Sharon.
Hello, Sharon. How are you?
Hi, Sharon.
Sharon, please.
Sharon, you'll have 3 minutes, and will you give your name and address, please? And once you do that, your 3 minutes will start.
Are you ready for me now?
Yes.
Hi, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate the conversation. It's been very eye-opening, and appreciate the city. I love living here in Mobile, and I really, really love doing Airbnb. It's been a highlight. I've been in the business for a long time.
Oh, Sharon, you got to give us your name and address.
Yeah, Sharon, if you don't mind, your name and address, please.
My name is Sharon Dixon. I live at 3812 Bayfront Road down here in Mobile.
Thank you.
Now I can go.
Yes.
All right. I love Mobile, and I love doing Airbnb. I was in hotel world for over 10 years, and it just seemed like a very natural fit when we were redoing a house, renovating a house, and the market went a little bit soft to be able to make some ends meet, and this is how we started doing this. So what I see here and what I hear from the council is that you really are concerned about a lot of things. You're concerned about, of course, collecting the tax that is the fair share, which Airbnb has been very, very good about going ahead and making that happen, making sure that the city is collecting tax on each one of us, and that is being sent into you. But here too, that you want to know who we are and how we're running and what we're doing to be safe. And I understand those concerns. And like Todd said, Airbnb holds us to very, very strict guidelines. And the guests who come to see us see everything listed that we have in our home, and they sign off on this before they ever make an arrangement through Airbnb with us. So everyone knows what is what before anything happens. And all of us are not, none of the houses that we rent would be considered a stopover or a place that anybody would go for nefarious reasons. We have high standards. We want people to come who love the city, who come spend tourist dollars, who bring their families with them. And so we're looking for, that kind of people. But here's the thing. As y'all go forward to look at how you're going to construct this, would you please consider that if you take Airbnb as your example to start having business license and then separate taxes and taxes that we might have to collect, would you then consider also any of the boarding houses and week to weeks and other rentals that they would have to go through the same strenuous measures to make sure that their boarding houses have fire extinguishers, that they have sprinklers, that their tenants are well taken care of? It just seems that if we're going to go ahead and collect taxes from people who rent on short term, we need to look at the entire group and let's make it all good for the whole city. That's pretty much it. I love the city. I want it to be good, and I want us to work forward, and making it something that we all want to be a part of. So, keep us posted. We really want to be a part of it. Okay?
Yay!
Hey,
Thank you.
And Sharon and Lisa, I hope we have everybody's contact information so that we can get back in touch with you and let you see future drafts and get your suggestions on it, because we want to work with everybody to have an end result of something that everybody can live with and agree to. So we want all the input but we definitely need to make sure that we have your contact information, how to get back to you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have Andrew Thigpen.
Andrew.
Andrew.
Okay.
Andrew. Andrew. There he is. Unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Hi,
Andrew,
hey guys.
Hi, Andrew. Please state your name and address, and once you do that, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. Hi guys, my name's Andrew Thigpen. I live at 2162 Dolphin Street.
Okay.
District 1.
District 1, yes, I live in District 1. So just barely. Actually, my property is in another district that I own as well. I have 2 Airbnbs. So I'll go and get started. So a lot of y'all received an email from me this morning, roughly around 10 a.m. And it was a slide pack that we had put together.
Yes.
I'll say
Thank you.
Yes, of course. And I'll say this. This has been amazing to see the outpouring from the Airbnb host. When we learned about this earlier this week, we pulled a bunch of people together, and I mean, that is the spirit and is alive with all the hosts that we pulled together. And it's been really exciting to see all that. But that being said, the slide pack we took was a summary of everything we brought together. It was roughly 30 to 40 hosts in the area that were concerned about the potential legislation. So that being said, just want to let y'all know from an Airbnb aspect, most properties in the city, I would say it's roughly, I think the gentleman from Visit Mobile mentioned it. It's probably about 98% of the short-term rentals are through Airbnb. So that's one interesting thing to know in this city. VRBO is not very used, and I'm not aware of any other platforms that are regularly used. But that being said, I want you to understand these folks, we love this city. We're ambassadors to this city. I mean, if I look, I've been hosting since 2016. One of my homes has had over 42 different countries and have come to Mobile. They spent money in Mobile. They visited Mobile. They've gone to the battleship. I mean, it's been incredible to meet those people. Unfortunately, with COVID, I haven't got to meet as many, but it's been amazing to meet a lot of those folks. And they appreciate Airbnb. If you go look at statistics, that many people will not consider staying at a place if there's not proper Airbnbs in place, especially people under the age of 40 who are much more open to some of those platforms. International guests absolutely love Airbnb. I use Airbnb all over the world. So there's a lot of folks that consider visiting and stopping in Mobile for multiple nights just because we have those quality Airbnbs. But that being said, as far as our concerns, those are all listed in that slide pack I sent you. The biggest thing we want to be considered is being a part of developing whatever these ordinance and policies are. Because, I mean, these are older homes that a lot of these hosts have gone and they've put their blood, sweat, and tears into this to restore these homes. And we've worked hard. We love this city. We love the people we host. And we give that experience to those folks that can visit. So make us a part of whatever policy that is, and involve us. We're here. We're motivated folks. It's obvious. In 2 days, we got 40 of us together and submitted you a slide pack. So it's obvious we're motivated. So we just want to be involved. That's all we ask. We're not against policy. Policy brings up the standard for everybody involved. So I don't want somebody coming in Airbnb and having a negative experience. I want that to be positive. I want them to enjoy their time. So involve us. That's all we ask.
Todd, real quick. We don't do nothing without having committee meetings. We don't pass no laws without holding committee meetings so the public can get involved.
Yeah. And Andrew, since you've gotten about 40 hosts or so together, that sounds almost like you have an association. And I had written a note asking if y'all do have an association for your short-term rental people. It sounds like you do, but maybe not officially.
Well, we formed it on Wednesday. We call ourselves Airbnb Host of Mobile. Yes, it was on the fly because you'll speak to a lady later, Kirsten Rand. She was the one who initially found out about this and pulled us all together. And me and a couple of folks have been kind of leading that effort. But yes, we have a group, and the people you talked to today, I'm pretty sure almost all of them contributed to the information we provided to you. So, I mean, these people have the entrepreneurial spirit, and we love Mobile. It's obvious. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this.
Okay. Well, it's good to know that you have that group. It makes it easier for us as we try to share with the industry so that we know who to go to. So that really helps.
Yes.
It'd be great, Andrew, if you could, have a point person on this and provide that point person's contact information to the clerk, and that will help us stay in touch with you.
Okay, yeah, everybody. I'd say it's I can be listed as that, or one of the three of us that were listed on the email that was sent to all the counselors. So we can talk about that. Yeah.
Andrew, whenever there's drafts, we will make sure that the clerks send it out via email so that you can review the drafts that the council is working on. Any committee meetings, you would know ahead of time.
That'd be fantastic.
That's how we stay in touch with the industry.
That's great. And like I said, we want y'all to know that we're here. We're not trying to hide anything from y'all. We want y'all to know we're here, and we're okay with the policies. We just want them to be fit for purpose and right for us.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, Andrew, your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Next we have Megan Walker Thigpen.
Hello.
Hi, Megan. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and your address.
My name is Megan Thigpen. I am the spouse to the man that just spoke to you, so I also live at 2162 Dolphin Street. I come from the opposite side of things. I am the one that decorates the home, make sure everything's cute, make sure our guests feel like they get to know and love Mobile while they are here. He's more the business brain, and I'm more the creative brain. But what I want to tell you is, one, we're not opposed to a license. We are all professionals here. We help the city because that's certainly what we do. I would like to point out that by no means do I appreciate my taxes, and I do my best to be a part of the city. The number of people that have spent money at Mauvais Beignet on our recommendation is strong and high. So our guests are spending time in our city, enjoying what we have to offer. We are in line with the city's marketing plan of be here and enjoy it for the moment. And then we know that you're probably moving on to Texas down I-10 or to Orlando next. We get it. But our guests are enjoying Mobile while they're here. And like others have stated, we do have insurance through Airbnb. We do pay our taxes. You've received those taxes for years. So we obviously haven't been hiding too hard. We just need to know where everyone stands, and we get that. And additionally, I just want you to know that you can, and anytime you're curious about what Airbnb does, or like any other platform, think of it like Uber or Lyft. Before those things existed, we didn't have policies in place to make sure that they were operating efficiently, up to our standards as a city. We adjusted to those new markets moving in and made space for them. Starbucks isn't trying to drive out Dunkin'. They serve two different customers, and that is Airbnb in this city. The same person that stays at my $45 a night Airbnb is not the same person that's staying at the hotels that are in downtown. We are serving different clients, and many people that would choose not to stop in Mobile in their drive, and instead they do experience a little bit of the wonderful city we have to offer and then move forward. So I know that you guys have already gotten a taste of what we have to offer, but we have become a stronger asset than I think it is truly aware. It's not just a side income for many of us, which it is for me. I work with kids, and you know it. My income is not great because I chose to work with children. This allows me to coach gymnastics, something else I'm passionate about, and serve the city of Mobile in a unique way. We're passionate about this, as you can see. So anything that you have set forward, as we said, we are professionals. We will work with you, not against you. But there is a knowledge gap in what you know about what we do. And that gap is what has to be bridged first before, we hope, before any policies are set forth. Thank you. That's really all I have to say.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, and now we have John and Kirsten Rand. Okay, John and Kirsten, please unmute.
How about now?
Okay. Say your state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Great. Hey, thank you so much for having us. We live at one.
Okay. Say your state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, thank you so much for having us. We live at one.
Okay. Say your state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, thank you so much for having us. We live at one.
Something is wrong.
And you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, thank you so much for having us. We live.
It keep going over and over the same thing.
All right. Is that better? Have we lost the echo?
Can you hear us now?
I hear you.
Hey, good afternoon.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm John, and
start their time over again.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm John Rand. We live at 163 Houston Street. I'm John Rand. I own a small local handyman service. My wife, Kirsten Rand, owns a local cleaning service. Together, we own and operate 5 Airbnbs. Our 3 local businesses provide primary income for over 20 Mobile families. We are everyday citizens. We care about the fabric of our community. We are not real estate tycoons. We're not backed by large lending institutions or family inheritance. We are hardworking citizens who pay taxes, operate completely above board, and are extensively insured, provide safe, clean, and a beautiful destination for our guests. And we are extremely vested in this community. With our hands, we have built these Airbnbs. With our Airbnb income, we have renovated multiple blighted properties, and we currently live in one. I mean, this where we're right now was 2 years ago unoccupied for a decade, and Airbnb money paid for this. And every citizen and resident on Houston Street has thanked us for our contribution to the neighborhood. You know, some details are, we pay taxes year to date on the 8th day of this month. Our 5 Airbnbs have provided the city, county, and state with $10,038 in occupancy taxes. That's the full 14%, in case anybody was asking. If our five properties were long-term rentals, the city would not receive a penny of this $10,000. We receive a 1099 from Airbnb. All of our rental income from Airbnb is documented and taxed accordingly. This point cannot be taken for granted in long-term from long-term landlords. We're insured. Airbnb covers each of its hosts up to $1 million in liability insurance, and therefore, you know, we also have our residential policies. All hosts with Airbnb are protected with this coverage. I heard you guys talk about cleanliness and safety standards, Airbnb mandates that we have. Basically everything that you would expect us to have, Airbnb expects us to have. We're rated and reviewed on health, safety, cleanliness. If our reviews are substandard, we don't book anybody. You know, we have to maintain a 5-star rating. And over the years, we have maintained that five-star rating for thousands, over 1,000 guests This review-based platform of Airbnb and VRBO, it basically opens up to the city of Mobile to a subculture of travelers who really will never stay anywhere but Airbnb. They travel based on these things.
John, that's your time. It's 3 minutes.
Would you mind if I took another 20 seconds?
Go ahead.
Okay. There's a fallacy that the Airbnb reservation equals a hotel reservation. The Airbnb user community does not stay on I-65 service road hotels or chains in the downtown business district. They're travelers interested in a unique experience. They want to stay in neighborhoods in the cities they travel to. They want locals to recommend to them where to shop and eat and what to see. As hosts, we're responsible for bringing a tide of travelers who might not otherwise stop in our beautiful city. If you over-restrict Airbnbs in this city, those travelers will stay and spend their money in Biloxi, Gulfport, Ocean Springs, Fairhope, and Pensacola. They won't shop at the Ashland Gallery. They won't have lunch at Callahan's or the Bike Shop or have dinner at Noja or Red or White or the Noble South. You'll be sending taxable and vital revenue down the road. And is that what this council should be considering in such trying times? We need all the business in our city that we can get. And Airbnb hosts are responsible for bringing in a massive influx of travelers and holding them here in this city instead of sending them down the road to Orlando.
All right, we got your point.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, John. We appreciate it. We had told Andrew earlier, and I think Kirsten, he had spoken about you as being one of the organizers of the group who got together.
Genius, yeah.
Okay, and we wanted to be sure that if possible, that we could have a point person to send the information to so that we could get input back from you all when we put together another draft of this, because, we want to have something that we can send you and get your input and, work through a process. And it's easier if we have one person rather than, 10 or 15 that, we need to do it through, if that's possible.
I think at this point, 50. It'd be easy to.
He said there's like 40. So, but for us, it's easier if we have a point person that then will work with the rest of the group.
Yeah, that's yes, ma'am. That's perfectly reasonable, and I think makes the most sense. We want to be able to communicate effectively with you, and I'm sure vice versa. So we'll have someone send you that contact information through the city clerk.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I have a question of this group right here. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. On your platform, do they rank any need for parking for your guests? Is that something that's ranked and you need to provide?
Yes, ma'am. We have to describe the parking situation for each of our properties. And so if a guest isn't happy with parking on the street in Old Government, then they go to another place. What I might say is that all of these places were long-term rentals. They're long-term, multi-year, multi-month rentals. So obviously they have, it's a safe accommodation that was on the open market with no business license and no occupancy tax collected and no oversight for safety from the fire marshal. And if it went back to that, this city would be missing a large amount of not just travelers revenue, but tax collection. I really want to hammer home that, are you really going to go to Dolphin Island and make every property down there have a business?
No, only the city of Mobile.
Okay.
We're not empowered with any.
We're not against you, John. We're not against you.
Yeah. We're working with you, but
thanks
for answering that. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you, John and Kirsten. Appreciate it, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Sure.
Okay, and we have Brooks Conkle. Brooks, Conkle. Brooks.
Hey there. Let's see.
Okay.
Hey
Hi,
there.
Brooks. Okay, Brooks. Please state your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Sure. Brooks Conkle, 2414 Myrtle Street, Mobile, Alabama, 36607. I hope you guys are all well. I was on the YouTube stream, so I was listening to that. Really, so I didn't even know that was a part of. I guess there's this group that's come together on Facebook. Is what's happened. It's been amazing. I don't know any of those people that previously spoke, but I have in the last 3 days met all of them, and I felt that they were all passionate in this group based on what was happening, and me just getting to hear them. I'm like, okay, obviously they love the city. Obviously we love tourism. Obviously. You know, like I don't need to repeat that. You guys already get all that. So I was trying to take some notes while they were talking so that I could maybe just give you a few if there's different points or whatever. Yeah, obviously if you guys have areas of concern. So the safety thing, I feel like that's vetted out via Airbnb, via the review platform. If someone has like not a good property or whatever, and they attempt to rent it, it's not going to work. Like they'll get kicked off the platform by people because it's a people voting thing. If you have a terrible property, it gets a bad review and then you're gone. So everyone here that's concerned about their reviews and their property, so that's important. One thing I do want to say is I'm a huge proponent of reducing friction in a process, right? And we know that if there's multiple things going on, that it can cause a lot of friction. And unfortunately, if that does happen, it could it could cause people to go off the platform. Like me, for example, if it became difficult, to operate, I might just sell my properties. But I love Airbnb and I love the city and it's a cool transaction. Airbnb handles everything as a platform. Apparently it's 8% tax. If they're not collecting 14, I'd say hit them up for 14 or whatever that is. I don't know, because they handle and remit that. Most of the transactions are being done through Airbnb. I would not be concerned with VRBO, but if you want to maybe connect with them and say, hey guys, y'all have to collect and remit. I don't think anyone else can operate off of those platforms. They're not like putting their house on Craigslist or something like that. Like, don't worry about it. This is my opinion. I wouldn't worry about trying to collect any of the, I don't know, whoever those people are. Like Airbnb would be where it's at for that. And a lot of these other, B&Bs are probably, listing their properties there as well, right? Because it's a great platform and people like booking there and it's a good option. The parking thing was kind of addressed. Yeah, you list that in your listing. And so people know, okay, you have 2 spaces, you can park here, you can't park here. Yeah, the long-term rental is definitely was one of my questions when I looked at kind of just some of the thoughts. Is that, yeah, of course, we don't have any of that regulation for a long-term rental. And I kind of see the Airbnbs, so we operate 3, and I see them exactly as I do a long-term rental. We have guests that will stay for a 30-day period. We have someone right now that's like looking for a home. They're shopping for a home. They moved here. They have a 30-day stay. That sets really regular, in my opinion, which doesn't have that regulation. If you guys want to ask me anything, let me know.
Fred, do you have a question?
No, I was just going to tell Brooke that it looked like we're searching for something. We don't know nothing.
Right.
You all know everything about it. We know nothing about it. So don't think we're trying to take a lead off against you all. We're just trying to find out what's going on, and you all have done a good job in educating us. That's all we're trying to do.
I'm so excited about all these people I've just met that are associated. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah. You guys have all the resources you need to get the info from them.
And you are in District 1, and I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Thank y'all.
And that's everyone.
All righty.
All right.
Any council members, anybody from the administration that's still with us, have anything else you want to add at this point before we wrap up and adjourn?
I have a question and a statement. I don't want to get in front of the committee members, though, if they have something else to say.
Fred,
no.
Anything?
No.
Best?
No, that's okay.
All right, Joel.
Chris, what regulation, if any, do we have over long-term renters? Because I understand their point. I mean, how do we distinguish between short-term regulating short-term rentals and long-term rentals?
Well, as far as the city of Mobile goes, there is, I believe, a long-term rental business license requirement, but it has an exemption if you got 10 houses or less, is the way it's currently written. That was actually that ordinance came up for consideration of amendment to kind of close that loophole back in early March. And then COVID hit and it kind of got set aside. So if it's over 10, I would assume if they got to get a business license, they have these fire department inspections and things that the chief was talking about. Now, the state law also governs landlord-tenant. The Uniform Residential Landlord-Tenant Act has got some basic requirements about the condition of the building. The utilities have to be connected and work and things like that. It doesn't really say anything about fire extinguishers and things like we're talking about here. There's summary. There's some in the Landlord-Tenant Act. And then if you get over 10, I think that would kick in with the fire inspectors. But other than that, I don't know if there is.
My own personal opinion is we need to look at that again. Take this up. We need to look at that again. The second question I had for you is, it appears that if you use the Airbnb platform, that a lot of the things not all, but a lot of things we've been talking about are implicit in using that platform. And the question you come to is, and I'm not asking for an answer now, this is kind of a rhetorical question. The question you get to is, how do we craft legislation that either that either does not impose certain requirements if you use the Airbnb platform, or says, if you are going to be in this business, you have to use a platform that does these things, makes you get the insurance, collects and remits, that kind of thing. So like I said, I'm not asking for an answer. I'm just throwing that question out there for us to possibly look into. Thank you.
I was thinking about that while some of the speakers were talking. Airbnb, yes, sounds like they've got some requirements and standards, and pretty much you're going to get bad reviews and go out of business if you don't follow them. Now, 10 years ago, 20, I don't know when Airbnb was invented, they didn't exist. They may not exist 20 years from now, maybe some other company. Maybe for the time being, since they're the massive majority, we could look at the standards that these folks sent over to us and maybe adopt that to where they're not doing anything different than they're already doing. And that would also apply to whatever very small minority are not on that platform. And so it'd be kind of an even deal.
Yeah. To participate in the Airbnb thing, you got to have insurance, and you got to collect and remit. We don't want to.
Well, we wouldn't want to.
Yeah, right.
Duplicate, overload them with. They're already doing something through the Airbnb.
Right.
We make them have to also then. Yeah.
Right.
I have a question of Chris.
I'm finished. Go ahead, Dennis.
Thank you. Chris, on the short term, that's 30 days or less. Is that the criteria that makes it short term? Okay, good. When you talk about the Landlord-Tenant Act, that's where people rent for more than 30 days at a time, a parcel. Is it like apartment complex? Is that part of the Landlord-Tenant Act? Or are we only talking about single family homes that people turn into rentals? And if they have 10 or more, they become a business.
It covers apartments too.
Okay.
They define it as a dwelling unit.
Okay.
Being subject to the Landlord Tenant Act. And they don't really, that act doesn't go into the length of time really, other than for eviction purposes, you know.
I see.
How much notice you got to give them and all that. So, but it covers apartments.
Okay. And then people going under 10 units of ownership, I guess they could form different LLCs, couldn't they? And then actually have 30 or 40, but nobody would be the wiser.
I think actually I've heard conjecture that actually goes on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be regulated. So I'm not trying to undermine anything there. I think that's was very important to some of this industry, that it be a level playing field. And I certainly would tend to agree with them. And the idea that, which is why, you know, we were asking questions about what the industry, this air industry now, B&B, puts on them about parking and stuff. I think that can help us because they want to get the good rating. So we have to really learn exactly what those components are that get rated, and then see how we can then go to the fire department and figure out, you know, exactly what they would look for safety. And no, should they not have to do it twice? But if they're already doing it, it would pass inspection, you see. So,
Yeah.
Okay,
Hey, Chris,
great.
Chris,
Good meeting.
Chris, are we preempted on Section 8?
I don't know the answer to that.
Research.
Yeah.
Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir.
I mean, no, I'm sorry, Madam Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Richardson.
I don't think we ought to treat Airbnb any differently than we have treated other ordinance that we were dealing with. We just finished up the towing ordinance. And what we did, we looked at cities, Birmingham, we looked at a number of the cities to see what they were doing, and we picked the best out of all of that, and we added to what we were doing and kept moving. I don't think we ought to go a step further without looking at what other cities are already. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let's find out what other cities doing and see what they is anything they're doing. We have heard pretty much from the industry, and let's see what they're doing and see can we model that. You know, let's not walk into the wilderness, and we don't have to. And not knowing what's out there, let's take a look at what other cities are already doing. We're just late, and just because we're late doesn't mean we can't catch up. I think we need to catch up, find out what others are doing, and then figure out what we want to do. And whether or not what we want to do is going to look like what they're doing in this city, that city, a little from all of them.
Yeah. Well, I agree, and we will. I know we've got our homework cut out for us, but I think we got a lot of good information, especially on trying not to duplicate what is already required. We could just probably mirror what is already required in a lot of instances that they're already doing, you know, sort of a thing. But yeah, we have some homework to do, and we'll come back with another draft and send it around to everybody, and you know, start talking again and see where we land. But I just want to explain to everybody who's listening in, especially our Airbnb hosts, on Tuesday, you will see this proposal come back on our agenda. It's just because it was laid over. But we will most likely, and I'm looking at my council members here, table it, or do we just lay it over? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I'd lay it over 60 or 90 days in order to give us time to, because it's going to take us a while to work through this.
Yeah, that's what we did with the towing. We just, you know, kept moving it out.
So we just
making changes to it, because it's only a draft that we're looking at.
Yeah. I mean, if we lay it over for 90 days and something happens and we can move ahead quicker, we can always pull it forward.
So basically, just lay it over for 90 days and keep the bones of this and just
drafting out.
Keep working. Keep on working.
Mhm.
All right. We'll lay this over then for 90 days. So don't worry about having to, come back and speak and be worried about whether we're going to vote on this on Tuesday, because I will move to lay it over for 90 days, and then we will continue working on it to get another second round draft together to send out to everybody. All right. Anybody else? All right. Do I hear a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right. We are adjourned. Everybody have a great weekend, and thanks so much for participating.
Thank you.
All right.